everybody. Lene pointed out that the sound on the last video that I uploaded did not work the whole way, so I'm back. New day, same content. So we've been working through this FRQ. There are two sets of slides that you need to be able to work through the whole thing. I've already covered A and B. That's in the previous lesson on error bars. Error as in the mistake error, not air like the air around me. So this is all about C and D. And the way I laid out this set of slides, first I'm going to define what a null hypothesis is, because we have not covered that yet this year. And then we're going to work through part C together, which is one slide. And then we will work through part D, which is another slide. Now, the picture is the same. C and D are on the same picture, but I walked through it with you so that when you're working through it, you know my thought process, and that should help you through it. So first thing we need to do, because in part C, it asks you to design a fake experiment, which they love to have you do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have you do this because it's easy to write out. And I will give you several practice ones before May 18th if you are still trying to take the test. So you have to design an experiment using fake flowers. And so I thought about this. I decided to use 4 flowers. Here they are, flower 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I treated them with flower 1 is my control. And since it's a control, we don't want any caffeine on it, so it had 0 millimeters of caffeine. Flower 2 had 0.2 milliliters. Flower 3 had 0.3, and flower 4 had 0.4. So you just have to imagine what this would look like. So you're faking out these bees by making them come to fake flowers, but you're putting nectar on the flowers that has caffeine. So imagine whipping up a sugary substance and you're putting different amounts of caffeine in it. And then I recorded my results. When we went over this on Friday, Elizabeth pointed out that they said everything had to be in paragraph form. It is okay to make a fake data table. They love it. They absolutely love it. So, part C asks you to identify a null hypothesis, the control in your experiment, and your predicted results. So what is a null hypothesis? So it's defined here for you. But essentially what a null hypothesis is, it's the opposite of what you think would happen. It's the opposite of your predicted results, your real hypothesis, your research hypothesis. So in the case of this one, where they're asking us to design an experiment that shows if there's potential negative effects if we increase the amount of caffeine in flowers. So will it impact the number of visits if we put more and more caffeine on? And so let's walk through how we do part C. So the first part of C was the designing the experiment, which I just talked to you about. So I designed an experiment with 4 flowers with increasing amounts of caffeine because we're trying to prove that it has a negative impact on them. And so I wrote my null hypothesis. My null hypothesis says increasing caffeine has no impact on the number of visits. So it's the direct opposite of what we're trying to prove. It's saying, nope, there wouldn't be any impact. Yet, my fake data shows that there is. So they went to the control with nothing 7 times. They went to the flower with 0.2 milliliters, 11. 0.3, 15, and then when it got to 0.4, it started going back down because we want to prove that it had a negative impact. So it also asks you to write about your control, and the control is no caffeine. And then the predicted results. What I said is the number of visits is different with increasing amounts of caffeine. I kept it kind of generic when I wrote it. I could have been more specific, like I think it will start going down at a certain amount, but I just kept it straightforward and generic, and you can do that too. So I should have written this in paragraph form. When I was working through these, I did 7 FRQs the other day, so I was starting to get I was rushing a little bit, so don't get sloppy like I did when I did that. So that's how we write a fake hypothesis, the null hypothesis. It's the opposite of what would actually happen. So part D, this is where the AP test is brilliant. You could have done A, B, and C with knowing nothing about any of this. You just have to use the prompt. You had to graph it, draw your error bars, say what the error bars indicated. Part C, you just had to come up with a fake experiment, write the null hypothesis, the control, and your predicted outcomes. And then in part D, making sure we go over the prompt all together, researchers found that nectar with caffeine tends to have a low sugar content than nectar without caffeine. Plants use less energy to produce the caffeine in the nectar than they do to produce the sugar in the nectar. They tell you everything you need to know, except for one, except for one thing. So it says propose one benefit to plants that produce nectar with caffeine and low sugar, and then one cost to bees that visit that plant. So think, what do bees make? Honey! They don't talk about honey at all, but you're going to need to talk about that. So for part D, I said one benefit of a plant that produces caffeine and nectar with low sugar content is the ability to conserve energy. I literally just rewrote the prompt because I need it, because then I say they conserve energy needed for other vital functions. In example, I listed leaf production, and you could have listed flower production, I listed growth, and I listed photosynthesis. Those are the things that plants do that they need energy for. So by conserving energy and making that high caffeine nectar, they're able to do a lot more work. But when it comes to the bees, those pollinators, right, this is going to have a dramatic effect on the quality of their honey. So I said one cost to the bee that visits the low sugar, high caffeine plant would be it would make a lower quality of honey because of the low sugar content in the nectar. So this is the last part of the 2017 number one type, right? Question 1 is the number one type of FRQ. It will be the first one that you'll have on the AP test. This fashion, it's a long one, takes a long time to write. And this is why we need to practice, because you got to get fast. If you want individual help sessions, just email me and I'll schedule one where we can do a Google Hangout together. And if you haven't had internet for some reason and you want to get caught up on this one, just let me know and we'll do an individual Hangout. See ya!